Okay, we're going to do 13-7. This is page 709 in your math workbook. So page 709 in your math workbook. All right, Jamie ate 6 pieces of apple pie during the week. Each piece was 1/6 of the whole pie. How much of the pie did Jamie eat and how much pie is left over? So solve this problem any way you choose. Okay, so they have a bar graph here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've divided this into 6 pieces and she ate, how much did she eat? She ate 6 pieces. So she ate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we drew a pie and we divide it into 6 pieces, okay, and she ate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She ate 6 pieces. Each piece is 1/6. So she ate 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6, and 6/6. She ate 6/6, which means she ate the whole pizza, right? 6/6 is 1 whole. So how much pie is left over? Nothing, right? How much did she eat? The whole thing. All right, Jamie cuts another pie into smaller pieces. Each piece is 1/8. We know that 1/8 is definitely smaller than 1/6 because we have the same pie. But this time we are cutting it into 8 parts. Excuse me. Okay, and let's see how many she cuts into. Each piece is 1/8. That makes sense. So 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and 8/8. She gives away 8 pieces. So there's 8 pieces total, and she gives away 8, which means she gave away 1 whole pie. She gave away, is there anything left over? No, she gave away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. She gave away the whole thing, okay? And we know that our denominator tells us how many pieces of pie there are, and the numerator tells us how many are shaded, how many do we eat, how many are left, how many are unshaded, whatever it is they're asking us for. So when the top and the bottom are the same, that's 1 whole. We can also think of this as division. 8 divided by 8 equals 1. Remember, and you should know this from watching the reteach video. If you are doing this without watching the reteach video, you need to go back and watch it. That let's say we have 24 divided by 6 equals 4. We can write that. That was one way we can write division. We should also do 24 divided by 6 equals 4, or we could do 24 divided by 6 equals 4. Okay? So this is a fraction. So if we had 6 pieces, 6 pizzas. No, I'm sorry. If we had 4 whole pizzas and we divided them into 6 equal parts and we ate 24 of those 6, 24 divided by 6 equals 4, or 4 times 6 equals 24. Okay? So let's take a look here. What are some equivalent fraction names for 1, 2, and 3? First of all, when they're talking about equivalent fraction names for 1, 2, and 3, they're talking about whole number 1, whole number 2, whole number 3. They're talking about if I have 8/8, that is an equivalent, this is an equivalent fraction for number 1, okay? If I have 16/8, that is what 16 divided by 8, that is a fraction that is equivalent to whole number 2. Okay, or if I have 8 times 3 is 24, if I have 24/8, that is a fraction that is equivalent to 3. Let's look at it with some numbers that are like smaller and a little easier to understand, okay? So if I have 2 halves, okay, that is equal to 1 whole. 2 divided by 2 is 1. If I have 1 whole pie, and I cut it into halves, there's my denominator, right? I have halves, and if I eat both of them, I have eaten 2 halves, which equals 2 halves is going to equal 1 whole. 2 divided by 2 is 1. okay? Let's say I have 2 whole pies, right? Okay, I have 2 whole pies, and I'm going to divide each of them into 2 parts. Okay, my denominator is 2 because each whole circle is divided into 2 parts. So how many halves do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 halves. Okay, remember when this numerator is bigger than the denominator, you have more than 1 whole, okay? What is 4 divided by 2? It's 2. Okay? And let's see, if we wanted a fraction name for 3, a whole number 3, and we wanted the denominator to be 2, okay? We would draw 3 whole circles, because that's what we're saying is we have 3 whole. Each one of them is divided in half. Okay, how many halves make 3 wholes? How many halves do you have? You have 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves, 5 halves, 6 halves. And what is 6 divided by 2? 3. Okay, so let's take a look here. So the whole number, the number line shows 3 wholes. 1 whole, 2 whole, 3 whole. Notice we're saying wholes, not like a hole in the ground. 1 whole divided into 1 equal part, okay, could be 1 over 1. So if I have a pie, 1 whole pie, right? And I've divided it, I really haven't divided it. I've left it as I am dividing it into 1 equal part, which means I'm not dividing it at all. How many equal whole parts do I have? 1. And what is 1 divided by 1? 1. Okay. If I have 2 wholes that are each divided into 1 equal part, which again, you have 2 wholes, which if they're saying it's divided into 1 equal part, I did not divide it at all. Okay. It's still, if I have, 1 remote and I divide it into 1 equal part, guess what? It's still just like this. I didn't divide it at all. Okay. It's still there. I have 1 pen. I divide it into 1 equal part. No, well, I didn't. It's still 1 part. If I was going to divide it in half, I would literally cut it into 2 parts. But if you're leaving it whole, that means you're not dividing it at all. So this would be, my bottom number is going to be 1 because that's how many parts I'm dividing this to. And how many of them do I have? 2. I have 1 whole part and 1 whole part. What is 2 divided by 1? 2. Okay. And here, 3 parts divided into 1 equal part. What is 3 divided by 1? 3. 1 divided by 1? 1. 2 divided by 1? 2. Okay? So you can find other equivalent fraction names for whole numbers. Okay, bottom line. Okay? You have to look at it from division. That's the easiest way to look at this. 1 divided by 1 is 1. 2 divided by 2, 1. 4 divided by 4, 1. 2 divided by 1, 2. 4 divided by 2, 2. 8 divided by 4, 2. Okay, they have to all equal 2. 3 divided by 1, 3. 6 divided by 2, 3. 12 divided by 4, 3. So what equivalent fraction names can you use to write for 4? Okay, you want it to equal whole number 4 and draw your fraction line. So go ahead and do that. Draw your fraction line. Your whole number needs to be just as big as the fraction, okay? And they want us to use a denominator of 1. So what number divided by 1 equals 4? Remember, you can use multiplication backwards. 4 times 1 equals 4. Okay? If you have 4 whole circles and you divide them into 1 equal part, you're going to get 4. Right? You have 4 whole circles. You divide them into 1 equal part, which means you don't really divide them. You have 4 whole circles. Okay? Okay, now they want us to do the same thing again. Draw a fraction line. It equals 4. It's got to be a big 4, okay? And it wants us to have a denominator of 2. So what number divided by 2 equals 4? Okay, you can work your multiplication backwards, right? It's because you have basically blank divided by 2 equals 4, which you can do your multiplication backwards. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 divided by 2 equals 4. Okay, so 8 divided by 2 equals 4. Now again, this means you have 4 whole circles, and you've divided them in half. And how many halves do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm dealing with halves. I have 8 of them. So if I put 2 together, 2 together, 2 together, 2 together, that equals 4. Okay? All right, now we have, they want us to do it one more time. Equals 4. Draw your fraction line. They want a denominator of 4. So what number divided by 4 equals 4? Again, it's division. What number divided by 4 equals 4? So you can multiply backwards, right? What number divided by 4 equals 4? 4 times 4 is 16, right? 16 divided by 4 is 4. So if I draw my, again, whole number 4, means I have 4 whole circles. I'm going to divide each one into fourths. Okay, so how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, let's take a look at page 711. You can use fractions to name the whole numbers. So 12 1/6 fraction strips equals 2 whole fraction strips. Well, that makes sense because 6/6 equals 1 whole, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6/6 equals 1 whole, so it would make sense that another 6 is going to equal the second whole. So that would be that 12/6 is going to equal 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's 1. That gets us to 6/6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's another 1. So I have 6/6, 6/6, and 6/6, which is 12/6. And what is 12 divided by 6? 2. Okay. So all whole numbers have fraction names. So you can write whole number 2 as 12/16. We also know that whole number 2 is 2 1s, right? 2 divided by 1. So you could write it like this. You could write whole number 2 is equal to 2 1s, which is also equal to 12/6. I mean, there's a ton of other ones. What other number could you write that this number divided by that number equals 2? About 8/4, right? Is 8 divided by 4, 2. I mean, you could just keep going and going and going, okay? Explain how you know that 4 over 1, 4 1s, is the same as 4 wholes, okay? First of all, we know that 4 divided by 1 equals 4. That's one way that we know that. We also know that 4 whole circles, so 4 whole circles divided into 1s is equal to 4 wholes, right? I mean, because we didn't change it at all. We have 4 whole circles. We divided them into 1s, which really means we didn't divide them at all. And then we're left with our 4 wholes. Okay. Complete the number line. First thing I want you to do is ignore this top one, okay? Because that's what I did on the 12 or 13-2. I drew those second number lines for you. So just ignore these ones up at the top, okay? And let's just look at, we have whole number 1 here and we have 0. So we know whole number 1 should be 6/6. And we know whole number 2 should be how many? What number divided by 6 equals 2? How many 6? Look up at this one up here. It was up here. How many 6 do you need to have 2 wholes? You got 6 here and you have 6 here. These 6 equal 1 whole and these 6 equal 1 whole. So together they equal 2 wholes. So this should be 12/6, right? Okay, so then can you fill in, can you pause and fill in all those numbers in between? Pause it right now. Okay, that should work out like that. Now, I want you to cover up the bottom. Okay, now we're just going to use the same number line. We're going to use these numbers up here. Okay, so whole number 1, we're talking about thirds. How many thirds is whole number 1? 3 divided by 3 is 1, right? 3 thirds is 1. How many thirds would you have in whole number 2? So if 3 thirds equals 1 whole and 3 thirds equals another whole, then you would have 6 thirds would equal 2 whole circles or 2 whole anything. And we know that 6 divided by 3 equals 2. So I want you to pause it and fill in the other numbers. Okay, so it should be 1 third, 2 thirds, 3 thirds, 4 thirds, 5 thirds, and 6 thirds. Okay, look at the number line. Write 2 equivalent fractions for each whole number. So if we have whole number 1, that means something divided by 3 is 1. What number divided by 3 is 1? 3 thirds, right? If it's going to equal 1, then the numerator and the denominator have to be the same. 6 equals 1, 3 thirds equals 1. Now for 2, okay, 3 thirds equals 1. We don't want it to equal 1, we want it to equal 2. So if we have 3 thirds equaling 1, we would need another 3 thirds to equal 2, which would equal 6 thirds, right? So 6 thirds and 6 divided by 3 is 2. What number divided by 6 would be 2? And again, think of it this way. 6 equals 1 whole, and you need another 6 to equal 2 wholes. So we keep that number the same, and 6 plus 6, you have 12 6, okay? So whole number 2 is equal to 6 thirds and 12 6. Okay, I want you to try to do the independent practice by yourself, and then you can unpause it, and we'll correct that, and then we'll go on to the back, okay? Pause it now and do these ones by yourself. Okay, so 4 is 8 halves. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 4 divided by 1 is 4. This is to equal whole number 1, so these numbers have to be the same. 4 fourths, 1 once. To equal 2, this would be 6 thirds. 6 divided by 3 is 2. And then what number divided by 1 is 2? That would be 2. Okay, they don't have to necessarily get bigger or smaller. It doesn't matter what order they're in. Okay, we want this to equal 5. So if we had 5 whole circles and we divided each one of them into halves, we would have 10 halves. If we had 5 whole circles and we divided each one into ones, that means we didn't divide them at all. We'd have 5 ones. Now this one, for each pair of fractions, write the equivalent whole number. Okay, so 6 divided by 2 is 3. That's our answer, but we just check it with this. 3 divided by 1, yes, also 3. Okay, 3 divided by 3 is 1. That should be our answer. Let's just check. 6 divided by 6, yes, also 1. So basically, it's what each one of these should have the same exact answer. Okay, 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. So that's our answer there. And 9 thirds, 9 divided by 3 is 3. 12 divided by 4 is also 3. Okay? All right, let's take a look at the back. Okay, Henry needs to fix or replace his refrigerator. It will cost $376 to fix. How much more will it cost to buy a new refrigerator than to buy a new one? Okay, so $969 is the new refrigerator, and it's going to cost $376 to fix. So you have to choose whether to spend $376 or $969. They want to know how much more will it cost to buy a new refrigerator than a current one. So you need to subtract to find the difference between those two numbers. Okay? Why don't you pause it and work that out. Okay, 969 minus 376. 9. So the difference is 593. Okay. All right. Declan says to write an equivalent fraction name for 5, I can write 5 as the numerator and 1 as the denominator. Okay, so that would mean 5 is equal to 5 is the denominator and 1 is the numerator. No, 5 is definitely not equal to 1/5. 1 divided into 5 equal parts does not equal 5 parts. That would mean that you have, if I have one circle, well, this has 5 circles. right? 5 circles, and I divide each part into 5 parts. Two, 3, 4, oops, that's terrible. That's not even much better. Normally 5, we don't divide 5 into a circle. Well, apparently not well. Kind of like a starfish, I guess. Okay, so if I take 5 circles and I divide them each into 5 equal parts, I'm gonna have 25 parts, aren't I? Not 1. So this says 1 divided by 5 equals 5. That does not. No. It would need to be 5 divided by 1 equals 5. It would have to be that way. The 5 would have to be the numerator and 1 would have to be the denominator. Describe one of the patterns in fractions equal to 1. Okay, if you want whole number 1, they're asking you, what's the relationship or the pattern? What's always true about the numerator and the denominator? Okay, so pause it. Okay, they're always the same. Okay, so it would be, 5/5 or 2/2 or 3/3 in order to be whole number 1. There are 4 stages in a butterfly's life cycle: egg, caterpillar, chrysalis, and butterfly, just like we're learning in science. Dan makes 1 whole poster for each stage. Use a fraction to show the number of whole posters that Dan makes. Okay, so he's going to make 1 whole poster for each stage. So he's going to make 1 poster for the egg, 1 for the caterpillar, 1 poster for the chrysalis, and 1 for the butterfly. So you need to write that as a fraction. Okay, ask yourself, how many whole posters do you have? How many sections are each of them divided into? That's your denominator. And then how many of those do you have? So pause it and write that. Okay, you should have 4 wholes. They're divided into 1 equal part, which means they're not, and you have 4 of them. Okay? Karen buys movie tickets for $9 each. She has $12 left over. How much money does she have to start? Okay, so the first thing we have to do is we have 4 movie passes times $9 each. Figure out how much that is. Add the $12 that she still has left over, and that's going to tell you how much money she had to start with. All right, Peggy has 4 whole sandwiches. So 4 wholes. She cuts each whole into half. Okay, well, let's draw our 4 whole sandwiches. She draws, we draw 4 whole sandwiches. She cuts each whole into halves. Okay, let's do that. And she gives away 2 halves of the sandwiches. Well, how many cross out what she gave away? It would have to be like that, right? That's 2 halves. So how many, I want you to write this as a fraction. So pause it and write that as a fraction. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to say that each part is divided into what? Halves. And how many of those halves do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 halves. Okay? Complete the equation. Draw lines to match the whole number on the left with the fraction on the right. So you basically want to figure out these answers over here. Ask yourself 6 divided by 1 and 12 divided by 2. They should have the same answer. 6 divided by 3 or 4 divided by 2. They should have the same answer. 4 divided by 4 or 1 divided by 1. They should have the same answer. 8 divided by 2, 16 divided by 4. They should have the same answer, and draw the line. So pause it. Actually, I'm not even going to tell you the answer. I'm sure you can figure that one out. All right, good job.